Hi everyone, and welcome to the Browser Web Timesheets Integration with Payroll Part 2. Part 2 is going to cover the approval section on this. So what are we going to cover? So a brief agenda of what I'm going to go through. So a recap from Part 1. Approvals, I'll talk about a single level, which is part of the browser timesheets, and multi-level using alerts and approvals. So a recap. So if you haven't already viewed it or wasn't aware that there was a separate video has been done and is available on the campus that covers the setup and of the browser timesheets. And remembering that this functionality is only available in the release 2017.0.0, also known as 4.12. Okay, approval, single level, and the concept of the single level approval. So the single level is designed for sites with no A&A license and or have a more straightforward approval structure and therefore don't need to have multi-levels but just have a single level structure. Note that for timesheet approvals for a single level where a site is licensed for alerts and approvals, whether you're using it or not, you still need to set the rule up. I'll go through that rule in a minute, but you still need to set that rule up. Where a site is not licensed for alerts and approvals, the approval is in the code itself and can't be viewed or seen. So just read through those in your own time just to understand them, but you will need to set up a rule if you've got alerts and approvals. It's not there by default. For the leave requests, the rule is automatically set up as part of the upgrade to 2017.0.0, as that last sentence says there. Okay, so just to run through this at a very kind of basic level, I've set up an example in my demo system here. So the simple scenario I've set up and that I'll refer to in both instances is my user Craig Clark is approving timesheets and leave requests for Cameron Cook. So it's Craig Clark as the approver and Cameron's the kind of doer, or he's the one that's going to enter a timesheet and a leave request. Okay, into the action. So first of all, I want to show you So first of all, I want to show you the rule that I've set up for my timesheets and how that links through to the employees. So in my rule, for my single level approval, this is my rule. I've just called it a system rule, so it helped me kind of look for it later if I need to amend it. So the key thing is this is what it's looking at, okay? So I'll go through these screens very briefly so you can hover over them and look at them. This is what I'm looking at, and also it's when I submit the timesheet. That's when it goes on to approval. What to do? It's looking at all my records. There's no preliminary processing, and the action is here that it requires approval at a single level approvals. So this is what I've called my approval code. So if I just go and have a look at this approval code, it's just what I called it. The system didn't do that for me. And you'll notice this option here, any approval approves all. Yeah, so that's acting as my single level approval. So that's setting the rule up, but in my instance now, I need to know that Craig is going to approve Cameron's timesheets. So into my mobile timesheet, mobile employee maintenance, screen. So first, we're going to have a look at both of them. First of all, let's have a look at Craig. So if I'm looking at Craig in here, you'll notice that what's happened, and I didn't cover this in the previous video, Craig, what this screen in the top right is doing is this is telling me what team Craig is in. So Craig is in the admin team. He could be, of course, in more than one, The difference between the blue and the black here is that the blue represents an HR team. The black is your standard kind of green tree team, for want of a better description, your security team. But the blue represents an HR team. So it depends on your setup, how it's configured at a site. But as a simplistic example here, I've just said that Craig is in the admin team. So that's the team that Craig belongs to. If I go to this Approvers tab, in here, I've dropped down and I've selected team. So he's approving what team? And he's going to approve other people in the same team. He could, of course, be also approving other teams as well. Try to keep it simple at this stage so we can get one working. You can show it how it hangs together. So let's just have a look. So he's the approver. Let's just have a look at Cameron on top of that. So Cameron on top of that is also in the admin team. So because of what I've done at Craig's level, it's saying here, don't have to do anything here because Cameron is not approving anybody's timesheets, but you'll notice that Craig's name is pulled through. So that's who the approver is, or approvers if there's more than one person allowed to approve in that team. Again, it's a single level concept. Yep. So that's how that was done. He's in that team, so therefore my previous setup on Craig, he's going to approve that. Okay, so what I'd like to do is enter a timesheet as Cameron. So here's Cameron. I'm going to log in as Cameron and do a very quick timesheet here. Okay, let's just make this a bit more visible. So this is Cameron entering a timesheet. I'm going to make it fairly straightforward. He's just doing an hour. Okay, he's on this company for this one, and he's working on this job. And I'll just choose I'm going to save it. Okay, I've got some reminders set because I'm getting a bit behind there. Then what I want to do is I want to submit my timesheet. Okay, I've got the confirmation for the submission. These warnings are popping up because of what we covered last time, but it's all those settings about minimum hours, maximum hours, and that type of stuff. I've just set them to be warning, so I get that warning, and through it goes. And you'll notice here in the top left, it says pending approval. Yep, always the kind of giveaway for that type of thing. So his timesheet has gone to be approved. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to log in as Craig, just to show you that approval that's come through, and talk about a couple of things around that approval. Okay, you'll notice first of all that Craig doesn't have that approvals badge that's there. I've kind of deliberately done that at this stage. So he can approve those timesheets under process, under timesheet review. And there they are. That's my 1 hour that he's done. This is a kind of header and line concept. So I can approve either all of them if there were multiple lines by selecting that one, as you can see, or I could just do that line there, depending how that process is working for you. So that's under the timesheet review that appears, and I didn't have the approvals badge. If I was to have the approvals badge, so the question has come up while I've been doing this video about what makes that approvals badge appear. So what makes that approvals badge appear? And as you'll notice, I did not need it to approve that timesheet. So I want to look at Craig. So under my access, this is Craig, that one there. So under the mobile approvers, that's there. So remember, these are named users. So he's got that. just to prove there's no smoke and mirrors. If I log back in as Craig, and I go down here, there it is there. There's my approvals badge. Go into it, and you'll see my time. I've got timesheets and timesheets lines there. So that's just the difference between using the timesheet review or using the approvals badge and what makes that approvals badge appear. So you may not need those approvals. The idea being, Craig in this instance has these things to approve. There's a leave request which we'll come on to shortly, but he may just be approving timesheets, so he does not need that approvals badge. It depends how you want to work those processes and how that licensing is going to work for you, because that is taking up an approvals named license. Okay. Going to get ready to log back in as Cameron. Okay, I'm going to talk about leave requests, but one thing I wanted to show you before I actually do the leave request, back into here. So what you'll notice, there's a rule that appears, works on the same basis for my system-based leave requests. What you've got though is you need to set this. So under HR, System, Module Control, Leave Planning, you need to ensure that you set this to be the right one. So if you're now going to do your leave requests under the browser, the web, you need to set that as single level browser, not maybe EHR if you're coming from that EHR. Okay, mine's already set correctly. So back where I was, I want to do a leave request as Cameron. This is Cameron. My data's a bit messed up here, so I'm going to turn the clock back and we'll make it. Okay, so I've entered the date. I've kind of slightly round the clock back there. I'm going to save it. It's unsubmitted. I now want to submit it. And it's gone to pending awaiting approval. So what I then want to do is just log in. Okay, so I'm then going to log in as Craig. And what you'll see is I've got a leave request there to approve, but also under my approvals, I see I've got leave request there to approve as well as Craig. So again, this depends on your setup and your licensing, but just to confirm what those differences are in terms of Craig. In Craig's user preferences, the approvers down here under this mobile section, that ticked gives him that approvals badge when he logs into the browser. This one up here under HR browser client, this ticked here, this gives him the leave requests badge here. So again, it's a questioning of how that licensing works. If you want the approvers badge, that's a named user, that'll take up a user there. But also, of course, in this instance, Craig might also be approving purchase orders, invoices, that type of thing. So that really depends on how I've ticked both there, so you can see that I can see both badges on my browser login. If you need to discuss that further, then by all means, drop me an email or give me a call. So I've got one last slide here to show you. So feedback. So all feedback and questions are welcome. That's my email address, so feel free to drop me an email. But anyway, I hope that hasn't been too much of a whistle-stop tour around the approvals. And the next video to appear will just be around the processing around that browser timesheets, payroll, not payroll, and what the options are and what that means. Anyway, thanks for your time today. Cheers.